Next was from our special committee of the whole, and on the agenda is a resolution submitting a proposition to the qualified voters of Whatcom County authorizing a local sales and use tax of 0.2% for the purpose of providing funds for costs associated with financing, designing, acquiring, constructing, equipping, operating, maintaining, remodeling, repairing, re-equipping, and improvement of jail facilities and other public safety purposes. And we had a long discussion about this afternoon and came up with a variety of options on this one. And what are the wishes of the council? Ms. Brenner.
I move approval.
Move approval of which option?
Oh, option one. It doesn't, it just says resolution. Isn't
Right.
that option one in the resolution?
No.
It isn't?
Yeah, I believe it is.
The option one was slightly different than the original resolution because it was going to remove tying it to the facility use plan that was written previously.
But it was still option one.
Right.
This is Executive Laus. The administration provided to the council this afternoon a revised resolution that would authorize the ballot measure for a 0.2% sales tax measure to be presented to the voters on the November 3 ballot. The resolution as written would apply to either option one or option two. What I asked of the council, or my recommendation of the council is that I asked that the council adopt option one. Then I would go and rewrite the jail facilities use agreement and resubmit it to the cities to build up to a 521 bed jail. Option number two, the same resolution for the ballot measure would be engaged, but option number two would require the council to give me detailed changes to the jail facility use agreement to submit back to the cities for approval, or as Councilmember Weimer said, there's a whole variety of options that could be taken from there. If the council chooses to pass the resolution tonight authorizing the executive to put this on the ballot, there will be the measure there, but we do need direction from the council as it relates to the options that were presented today on option number one or option number two.
Well, my motion is option one.
So Ms. Brenner's motion is option number one, which is basically to take this back out to the cities and see who wants in and who doesn't, I think.
I guess what I would expect at that point is that the motion, as I probably would recommend it, would be to authorize the executive through the resolution to place the measure before on the ballot and instruct the executive to rework the jail facility use agreement as described in option one and resubmit it to the cities for their consideration.
And that's my motion.
All right. As long as neither one of us have to repeat it, we're fine.
They got it.
All right. So we have that motion in front of us. Is there a second?
Yep. I'll second that.
Okay,
just to get it on the floor here.
Mr. Kremen has seconded it. Mr. Browne and Mr. Mann.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Laus, you'd mentioned that there was going to be an updated version of the resolution to reflect the fact that the cities had not all the cities had signed on, and I don't believe we've received that.
Council office has received that and has distributed it.
Yeah, I didn't receive a copy of it.
References to the jail facility use agreement were removed from it. It has been reviewed by legal counsel today and signed off.
It was on our chair.
Submitted back to council office this afternoon and is on your chair for your consideration.
Mr. Buchanan doesn't have a copy either, so.
Is this it? I think this is it.
Yeah.
I've got multiple, so maybe I was the holdup in this.
I got it. No, I got one.
Okay.
Okay. But at least I wasn't losing my mind.
No.
Well, that doesn't mean you weren't.
I was just controlling
in this
the information.
particular instance.
Tyler Schroeder from my office would be more than pleased to walk through the changes to the resolution if council so desires.
We'll take a minute and look at the red line portions.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Mr. Mann.
First comment is you got to put the O in proposition number in the sample language down at the bottom there. Just
Which page?
they misspelled proposition number as it would appear on the ballots. Just I need that O there in the word proposition. Do you see it?
Yes,
Okay.
we'd be more than happy to put the O
No
in
problem.
proposition. That's the only change at this particular time after 9 or 10 months.
Yeah. You wish. You wish. Okay, serious question is, then have you taken out references to the jail facility use agreement from this resolution? That makes sense, because actually my question was going to be, how can we vote to introduce a proposition on the ballot that references the joint facility use agreement if we don't have a joint facility use agreement? So you took out the references to the joint facility use agreement. Okay. So then how in the future do we tie the ballot proposition to the joint facility use agreement?
So Tyler Schroeder, Executive's Office, if you look, there's a red line copy, change copy.
got
If
it
you
now,
look at the top of page 2, actually the bottom of page 1, you will see that we struck the whereas that refers to the long-term agreements, the joint facility use agreements. Top of page 2, we've added language that recognizes that the county intends to issue general obligation bonds for construction costs of the new jail, sized appropriately for the county and those participating cities who have reached long-term agreements for cost sharing in the construction and operations of the new jail. This allows for the council to give the executive authorization to place the ballot measure for 2/10 sales tax. We would then continue to work with the small cities and the city of Bellingham to reach an agreement with the joint facility use agreement on sizing the jail appropriately to which cities in Whatcom County decide to contribute to the capital costs of that facility.
So why would we do it in this order?
Because August 4th is coming very quickly, and we're we've got some challenges in bringing everybody together at this time. So this allows for the ballot measure and gives us the time to, option number 1 is to resubmit the jail facility use agreement back to the cities, predominantly as written, allowing for the cities one more opportunity to participate. As I've mentioned, the financial contributions that the cities have been requested to make under this is that Whatcom County would build about 333 beds. We build about 50 beds for the Lummi Nation Department of Correction and the Nooksack Tribe. We build about 100 beds for the city of Bellingham and about 26 beds for the small cities. If any of those entities, and particularly Bellingham, because at this time they're the ones that have voted not to participate in the last jail facility use agreement, decided that it wasn't in their best interest to participate, then Whatcom County would have the funds to build a jail approximately 100 to 120 beds smaller than what we're originally designing. But at that particular time, Bellingham wouldn't have first priority for the bed space in the facility as written under the jail facility use agreement.
So this would require then a fairly, if Bellingham chooses not to go along with this, it will require a fairly complex reworking of the facility use agreement, right? Because, with their large fund contribution and a large number of beds in the original plan, and then having it be 40-60 instead of 85-15 in the first few years, are we able to work something that complicated through all the cities?
Revising the jail facility use agreement to make the cities who want to participate that will build the jail to fit their needs is not complicated in the overall scheme of things. Bellingham is, is asked to pay. The cities are asked to pay about $1.5 million a year for their capital contribution to the costs. Each $68,000 provides for about $1 million worth of financing. We're asking under the current proposal for Bellingham to contribute about $18 million for the overall cost of the facility. Bellingham doesn't contribute. Instead of $97 million, we pull $18 million off of that, and we're at $81 million. The small cities are contributing enough capital to provide about $10 million worth of jail beds. So it's we can scale the project back based on who wants to contribute and who wants to participate. That is a pretty clear mathematical formula that I'm very convinced that we're going to be able to turn around. If we build a 400-bed jail, we're probably going to scale the project back from about $97 million down to about $70 million. That means that we aren't going to build as big a medical facility. The intake facility is going to be smaller. There's not going to be as many classrooms. The housing unit will probably go from the 2 pods down to the 1 pod, which eventually will make it considerably more expensive to add on to the facility. But we know that Skagit County is building a 400-bed facility for approximately $65 million. We can fit within that same window with the financing that we would receive if this ballot measure is passed by the citizens of Whatcom County in November. The sales tax would be distributed on the 60-40 as outlined in state law, and our 60% with the small city's contribution, if that's all we had, would give us the ability to build a $70 to $75 million facility. The math works.
Okay, so, and that's good to know. And then, I think we talked about this earlier, so if a majority votes to put this on the ballot, not knowing exactly what the agreement's going to look like, will we know what the agreement is going to look like before the voters vote on it?
Well, that's what our discussion was this afternoon.
Right.
And I am quite convinced that the small cities are not going to take action on the jail facility use agreement as it's going to be revised until the Whatcom County Council has passed it. Okay, so I'll rework it. It's going to come back to you. You're going to have to vote yes or no on it. If you vote yes on it, then the small cities would follow, because seriously, they're concerned that if they sign the document and if there's too much flexibility in it, it's not going to provide the bed space that they want.
So, and I'm not trying to be pedantic at all here. I'm trying to understand. So we vote to approve the ballot resolution, and then we vote again up here to vote to approve the facility use agreement, and then you head out to the small cities.
That's correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? I guess I have a question of wondering why, or if we need a date in here that says participating cities that have reached long-term agreement by August 1st, September 1. I mean, it seems wide open now. They could wait until January of next year.
Can you guarantee me when you guys will take action on it?
Well, I was wondering why we're passing the resolution this evening if we don't have the jail agreement in front of us. Why don't we pass both of them on the same evening, too? That was my next question.
Well, we're to the point we've got to be able to educate the public, too. So, if everybody is convinced that we need to get this on the ballot for the voters to decide, I would ask that the council provide the leadership and just make that happen. I'll turn around a revised jail facility use agreement under option number 1 very quickly for your consideration.
And my question about the date was just to push our friends across the street. I mean, should there be a date? We need a decision from all the cities by
Well,
a certain date?
the sooner we get the answer from everybody, the easier it's going to be to articulate this ballot measure to the voters. It's going to be very difficult in any event based on the conversations that we've had over the last few months. I think we all realize that. But we definitely, if the small cities and the city of Bellingham and Whatcom County wants to make this happen, we need to get it on the ballot, and we need to move forward. Because the alternative, if we don't get it on the ballot, or if the ballot measure doesn't pass, is really, and it puts us into an unacceptable position for the next few years. So tonight I'm encouraging you to make that stand of voting to authorize the ballot measure. And I would really appreciate another vote, or it's included in this motion right now, as is the instructions to go forth with option number 1 of reworking it. That's what I'm asking of you.
All right, I think that's the motion in front of us, includes both of those things. Mr. Browne.
So I just want to say that I'm going to support the motion as presented by the county executive. And one of the reasons is because I recognize and respect the concerns that a lot of the citizens have about diversion programs and so forth. But I believe that if we get immediately onto the task of filling the jail diversion task force and get them working forward to bring forward some recommendations, we have some time, because the county executive has to negotiate the joint the jail use agreement with the other cities, and we have some time for that to come into play there. And there's obviously work still going on in the design and the contracts that have to be let for the jail. So I think we can do both of those in parallel, but the most critical time element is that we get this voted on so we can get it on the ballot. Otherwise, we're pushing this out for at least a year.
Mr. Buchanan.
If we were to choose option 1, would that preclude us from, as discussed earlier today, of forming some sort of a coalition task force with the city to be able to negotiate some terms, or does that put us past that stage?
I believe that puts us past that stage. I mean, I would say that if you're pushing, if you're recommending option 1, which is basically the jail facility use agreement as written, reworked so that the cities who want to participate can, that's the direction I'm moving in. Now, what I'm going to do as county executive when that happens is I'm going to get and ask that we get together with the small city mayors and the city of Bellingham so that when we go through this, that we can do the best job we can of making it the same but moving it forward. If this council chooses to continue to work with the city of Bellingham, as I stated this afternoon, please do that. But then the responsibility lays on you as the legislative body to clearly articulate what you want to change in the agreement. Okay? The burden ends up being on you at that particular time, because I can't negotiate when the city of Bellingham hasn't clearly articulated what their position is. I don't know what the city of Bellingham council members as a whole truly will agree to. And I'll be honest, I don't know what you guys, if you're going to change the agreement, I don't know how you're going to do that. There's never been a motion to change anything. So you're giving me the direction under option number 1 is to be able to recreate what we have with some minor changes. If you want to engage with open negotiations and open up changing the terms of the agreement, the durability of the agreement, the financial part of it is, you're not only going to be negotiating with the city of Bellingham, but that also has to be approved by all of the small cities also. So it complicates the thing. Now, all I'm asking for is a decision, I know that I'm passionate about moving forward with this thing, but it truly is your decision. Move forward with option number 1, as I've stated this afternoon. Go forth with option number 2, which basically puts you guys in the driver's seat of authorizing the changes that you want to make collectively to the agreement, or go to option number 3, what is basically say, you know, this is just not going to happen and we aren't going to give it to the voters. That's the options that you have. But to send me on the road of option number 1 with the idea that we're going to continue to still negotiate is I don't think is appropriate.
Somebody else had a hand up over here. Oh, Mr. Kremen.
Thank you. It's been a long day. And I thank the chair for all your efforts. You're doing a good job. I want to continue along the same vein as Councilmember Buchanan, because I am concerned. I really do feel a bit uncomfortable and somewhat reluctant to move forward without all the cities unified along with the county. I mean, that's the best way to go. I think that would be the optimum way to present whatever proposal we put before the voters, for sure. And I think it's the right thing to do. But on the other hand, because the time is extremely short, I think the viability of us going across the street and continuing a dialogue without going back to the small cities first, I think is not doable. But I don't think if we, Mr. Executive, if we move forward with option 1, that does not preclude us from establishing a committee of either 2 and 2 or 3 and 3 with the City of Bellingham council members to continue working on alternatives to incarceration and diversion programs, and which I think we need to do, and hopefully have the City of Bellingham come into the fold or to join the other cities with the county, and we'd have full participation. Is that correct?
Absolutely, as it relates outside of the financial agreement that is needed for the bonding of the jail, I would encourage us, and we need to work together on all of those issues. We absolutely do. And whatever we can do to help facilitate that, our new task force has got Bellingham City representations on it, and any work that the councils can do collaboratively together would be appreciated with that. You know, I just want to, if I may just say, you know, the Bellingham responded and gave us a clarification letter today that had 14 different points that they would like to negotiate into the contract. They total approximately maybe $115 to $118 million worth of changes to the agreement. So that's why I said this afternoon is I don't know where to start. I mean, it's insurmountable, and that big of a change, we're not going to be able to do the facility. But, you know, if you guys proceed down option 2, you may take a look at those 14 items that are listed here and start making motions on them. Are you willing to concede here? Are you willing to concede here? Are you willing or not? And take votes on it. So I have a collective idea of where you're at. I don't really believe we have time to do that because, like I say, once that's done, it totally needs to go back to the small cities to see whether it works again. But enough said by me.
Thank you. Well, my concern is that even if we were, and I think this is overly optimistic, but if we were able to work out some sort of a agreed upon course to take with the City of Bellingham, my fear is that if we go back to the small cities, then there's a high likelihood that everything would unravel. And I just don't think we can take that risk. And so my preference, my inclination right now is to move forward, but to be very diligent and make a concerted effort to work with the City of Bellingham on the issues of common interest, specifically diversion and alternatives to incarceration, and see if we can't ultimately bring everyone on board and move forward together.
Ms. Brenner?
Yeah, and I just want to add, for those who didn't know this, we voted, I think it was unanimously, almost.
6-1.
6-1, some time ago, to meet with the city, if they would meet with us, and they turned us down. So, you know, the reason that we're at this 11th hour is not the county council's doing, and I think that we have tried very hard to work with the city. I say, let's work with them in the future, especially on the issues that we can agree on. But I think this is time. It's time. It's way past time to move on with this.
Mr. Browne?
So I would certainly like to have the City of Bellingham on as a partner, but whether they participate or not, it doesn't change our need to do something about the jail. We have a serious issue. We've got to get it done. We've got to get this facility changed out. I just want to come back, Mr. Lowes. Mr. Buchanan asked a question before that, if I understood the question correctly, it was, could we vote on this now and then work on the joint use agreement afterwards? And you, if I understood correctly, said no. However, both your statement here on the front page of your memo is to propose passing a resolution to authorise the ballot measure and then to rework the JFU as requested. And then in the body of this, under the now therefore it be resolved, you struck out the subject to the approval of the jail facility use agreement. So I'm just wondering if I heard you correctly, because I've understood we can do these in sequence. We don't have to do these concurrently.
I'm getting a little bit rummy today. I have to admit, it's been intense. So I'm going to ask some help from my staff here, who probably listened to the question as well, better than I did.
So Tyler Schroeder, Executive's Office.
Again, I will state, you can pass the resolution tonight, and we will be working on the jail facility use agreement, and it will be coming back to you for your approval prior to going to the small cities. If there's small adjustments in there that you would like to make, that probably, because it has to go back to all the cities anyway. There's small adjustments in there that don't totally unravel the deal. We may be able to do that. Okay, I'll concede at that particular time. If there's major shifts in dollars, then we need to take a big look at what we're doing. We need to engage the bond consultants. We need to engage the whole works to do that. Although I will admit is if the county decided that another $50 million we wanted to transfer from the county to the cities, I doubt that the small cities would have a problem with that. But they already have agreed They already have agreed to the financial distribution as presented. You may have noted the letters from the small cities caucuses is that the administration did shift about $25 million worth of responsibility from the cities basically back to the county as per my original proposal.
So thank you for the clarification. I continue to support your recommendation, and I can also support you leading the continual negotiations with the other parties, not the council getting involved. If for no other reason than you're more intimately involved in this process, and you're working full time on it. So,
Mr. Sidhu?
I think we have spent a pretty good time this afternoon, as well as now. The major thing is we do need to put it on ballot, because ultimately it is the decision of the voters. We are a one step in that, but ultimate key is in the hands of the voters, that they want to approve and they want a new jail, and there are always rough points. I think that best thing we can do is we can work collaboratively. I hope that City of Bellingham comes around and participates in this in one or the other shape, and I know you are a good negotiator. You will negotiate best for the whole county, and I think that we can keep discussing it even for another month. There's nothing much more we can change.
Anyone else? I had one question, and I probably have heard the answer to 8 times, but I've forgotten it. It looks like about 10 to 12% of the whole jail costs are going to be covered by others, the Lummies and the Nooksack tribes. Have we had discussion with them? Are they committed to this on into the future?
I've met twice with Chairman Ballou of the Lummi Nation and have given him the proposal and have gone through it and identified the reasons that the mayors and myself included the clause in the document that would charge parties not associated with the jail facility use agreement an additional charge to reimburse the cities and the counties for their capital contribution. You know, the nation uses about 8% of the jail space right now, which would be equivalent to about 40 beds. And they are going to have a substantial charge over a period of a year over and above what we're charging right now based on a $50 additional per day, per diem charge. But, you know, the nation doesn't provide sales tax, nor do they provide property tax into Whatcom County or into any of the city's coffers. And we don't have any legal responsibility to pay for the decisions made by the tribal government as it relates to their judicial system. So, you know, I kind of had a little bit of fun with Tim. I says, you know, you can pay for this over time, or you could write us a check for $10 million. Probably either would be acceptable. And he kind of smiled at me and said that he would take the agreement back and comment on it if needed. I haven't heard from him since then, but we have had 2 conversations concerning it, and they are well aware of what we're moving forward with. The Nooksack tribe is an extremely small user of the facility. I mean, it's really more than a handful of days per year than it is a percentage of the total, so I have not engaged them on what we're moving forward with.
All right. Mr. Mann?
I think option 1, to go to the city of Bellingham last with the joint facility user agreement when they are more than double the population of all the other cities combined, to go to them last and then say, when they turn it down, say, well, we don't have enough time to incorporate your concerns into this negotiation, so we're going to cut you out, is unacceptable. And I am not going to support option 1, obviously, and I just wanted to say that. And as far as putting it on the ballot, I've said it 100 times, but I think it's too expensive, and it's $100 million failure at this point, and I won't support it.
I may respond to one comment. Every jurisdiction in Whatcom County, including Whatcom County, got this on April 10th. Every legislative body got the exact same documents on April 10th. City of Bellingham included. The City of Bellingham Council chose not to act on this agreement until after the Whatcom County Council acted on it. That was a conscious decision on their part, and therefore is they were the last to vote. And they came back with the 4 guiding principles that I spoke to today, which are very difficult to interpret, and I spent time with the mayor to try to figure out what it was. So to say that it was given to them last is incorrect. They've had the exact same amount of time that all of the cities have had. My April 10th document to them asked if they could respond to it within, I think, a month to 5 weeks. It would be very appreciative. That would give the sheriff and I the opportunity to go back and see whether we could renegotiate it using the suggestions or the requirements that they have. I will not take any responsibility for the time the time crunch that we're in at this particular time, because everybody has had the equal amount of time, and they could have acted on it independently like the rest of the other 6 cities did and Whatcom County did, and made their decision based on the document instead of waiting until all of the chips fell throughout the county and making their final decision. So I just need to get that onto the record that that is an incorrect statement, that it was given to them last. It was not.
Yes, ma'am.
There's 2 contextual items here. Number one, April 10th is the date that you guys gave it to everybody. An argument could be made that that wasn't enough time in general. So when you say you don't take responsibility for the timing, I mean, we've only had, what, a couple months. So that's one observation I would make. But the other thing is, I thought you went on a road show to each of the cities to present it and to their councils and lay it out to them, and that you did the small cities first and then Bellingham and then us, or us and then Bellingham. So maybe I am wrong about that.
To all of the councils, and we went to the Bellingham Council as soon as they were able to schedule us in. We would have gone sooner had they requested us sooner.
Okay, then I stand corrected. I apologize for that.
Mr. Browne?
Mr. Lowes, prior to April 10th, how much time was spent on discussing with the various parties, the different cities? When did those discussions start?
I started negotiating and talking with the mayor of Bellingham September 20th of last year on this document. We worked on it for off and on through the parts of last year. Seriously kept the small city mayors engaged through the latter part of last year, seriously engaged them on the first part of the year. And I'm very, very, very appreciative of the small cities, particularly Mike Martin and the other city administrator from Blaine, who did a great amount of work on it. Asked for their final comments towards I wanted it the middle of March. The last comments received, red lines, were first part of April, and they were from the city of Bellingham. And we scrambled to put the thing together to get it to everyone on April 10th. So that's a factual.
So it's fair to say that Bellingham has had visibility to these negotiations for about 8 months.
They have, and I don't have a great relationship with the mayor. I respect her and respect the process that they have, but they have been involved in it, and the communication that's happened between their administration and their council, I'm not privy to. I mean, I've taken a bit of criticism even from our council that I haven't kept you as up to date during those months as I possibly should have. Those things happen. I try to do the best that I can. I know that I'm not perfect, but we have had, you guys have had a couple months on it, and I know that we've gotten very close many times on this thing, and we're just getting down to the point is that decisions from you are needed to move it forward, and I'm requesting that. So thank you.
All right. I am having a hard time supporting this evening, not because I don't want to. I've been trying to be the great compromiser on this for months now to move this forward, because I am committed to getting something on the ballot this year in front of the voters. I'm just having a hard time this evening because chatting with the city council members yesterday, what I was hearing from city council members was very different than what it came across the street from the mayor. The mayor's proposal and all those 14 points is a no-starter for me. We just can't make that work. But on the other hand, it seems like this whole ballot issue is dead if the city of Bellingham doesn't go along. And the city council members yesterday seemed like they were not going to go along. I don't know how you can go out to a vote of the county, almost half of whom live in Bellingham, and say, please support a county jail, but we're not going to include you. So it seems like it makes sense to me to take a time, even if it's just this week, to try to reach out to the city council and figure out what it is they have to say versus what the mayor's saying, so we can all be on the same page and hopefully hold hands, you know. And if we can't get a straight answer from the city council, and I was as frustrated as you were over their 4 overarching things that didn't have much substance to them at all, then I'll be ready to vote for this at the next meeting. But I think it makes sense to try to bring everybody along in a unified place. And I don't know if we can get there, but it seems like it makes sense, because the city council was saying things very different than what the mayor was saying just as of the last couple days. Ms. Brenner.
Well, I don't see, I mean, if they're really serious, you can still do that, because it would be coming back to us. My concern is, I just haven't felt like they really wanted to work with us. And the more they stall this, the more disruptive it is to the public trust. And I'm not saying they're doing that intentionally, but I'm saying that's what's happening. And I think we need to move forward with this. You come back in 2 weeks with something great from the city, I'm totally interested. But I don't feel like we've seen that, that real good faith effort. And I'm very concerned about giving the wrong impression to the public about us just being wishy-washy on this thing.
Mr. Browne.
So I just a little bit of a point of clarification. The city of Bellingham, if they don't participate, doesn't have a place to put its misdemeanors. But anybody who commits a felony within the city of Bellingham is still going to be housed within the county jail. So we are providing services for them, albeit we're doing it under the county's mandated requirement to do that. But if the city of Bellingham is roughly 50% of the population of the county, roughly 50% of the felons are going to be coming from the city of Bellingham.
I understand that. Any other discussion? Mr.
I had a
Sidhu.
question. If city of Bellingham does not participate in there, can we set our own per diem rate for them at a like what we are trying to do with the tribe?
I would expect that that's how we would operate. Even at a 400-bed jail, there's going to probably be opportunity to and should be some opportunity to rent jail beds to the tribes and to the city of Bellingham. The challenge will be, under the jail facility use agreement, is if the county grows by 60 to 70 to 80,000 people like it's projected to in the next 30 years, and we do a good job on our recidivism and our incarceration rates, we're still going to have more people, which is going to inevitably house more people, and there may be a time 5 years down the road that we may be put into a situation where those bed spaces aren't going to be available for them. So that's the risk that they take if they decide not to participate in terms of the capital costs of it. They will be charged a fee. Also realize that Bellingham, if you allow the ballot measure and it passes, and Bellingham is going to get their percentage of population of the 40%, they still have to use that money for the purposes as defined under the state law. I mean, they can't use it just for everything else. It has to be confined in that, and they're obviously going to have a need for it. As a reminder, the agreement that as written right now is asking about $1.75 million a year from all of the cities. Bellingham's contribution to that would be about $1.25 million. Over and above that cost, they're going to have about $800,000 of new revenue a year starting in 2019, and that will grow up to actually an average of $1.7 million a year over the life of the next 32 years. So they have quite a bit of new money that they are going to have the opportunity to direct as they wish as we move forward. And so.
All right, we have the resolution, a motion to approve the resolution in front of us and to ask the executive to move forward on option number 1. Is that correct? Yeah. All right. Any further discussion?
And just for clarity, we're talking about the new version, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Let's see, it's a resolution. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. So that passes 4-3 with Councilmembers Weimer, Mann, and Buchanan opposed. Let's see, we're on to introduction items.
Long day.
And I have a question about this because there were some added ones, and I'm not quite sure where they came from. It's the purple ones,
three
right?
ones, yeah.
Okay, so the purple ones were submitted by 4 different citizens this morning,
Okay.
and I took the liberty of printing them out and putting them in a
So you're
packet.
sponsoring those onto the
Sponsoring them as an introduction item, yes.
introduction items. Okay.
I don't, could you read them in the record, because I don't remember.
I can read them. I've got them right here.
Okay.
We're adding 4 new items onto the introduction items. One's an ordinance proposing an amendment to the Whatcom County Charter to respect communities and provide for fair elections in 5 equal districts. One's an ordinance proposing an amendment to the Whatcom County Charter to affirm the legislative authority granted to the County Council by the Washington State Constitution. One's an ordinance proposing an amendment to the Whatcom County Charter to elect charter review commissioners by county so that they represent districts that are equally accountable to each voter, and an ordinance proposing an amendment to the Whatcom County Charter to align requirements for amending the Whatcom County Charter by citizen initiative with the Washington state law. So it's those charter amendments that we kind of heard from people this evening would be added to introduction and scheduled for a public hearing on July 7th. Any other discussion on the introduction items? I guess we need a motion to introduce them.
So I move to introduce them.
Second.
Okay, they've been moved and
Mr.
seconded.
Chair?
Yep.
I need to remove the Wildlife Advisory Committee because I have an amendment. I would like to.
Okay, pull number 1, the Wildlife Advisory Committee. Okay. So we're voting to introduce items 2 through 8. They've been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those pass unanimously. Back to number 1, Mr. Buchanan.
Part of the discussion we had this morning in Natural Resources Committee, it seems like a week ago,
Yeah.
was that since we put a shelf life on this of approximately a year, that the staggered appointment of members might be not such a good idea. So I have an amendment here that just basically calls out that the committee will consist of 11 members, 7 of which will be part of these wildlife disciplines that are listed here in number B. And then number C is stricken all the way out, and D becomes C. So they've already established that there will be an advisory subcommittee that will be technical in nature. So if they need to do technical work and they want to do that as a subcommittee of the 7, they can make that decision themselves. So I would move this amendment to the Wildlife Advisory Committee ordinance.
All right, to the blue already substitute ordinance.
Yes.
All right. Ms. Brenner.
So do we have to vote on the amendment, or do we just put it forward as the amended version of the wildlife?
We have to vote on the amendment and then introduce
Okay.
it as amended. Any questions on the amendment? Well, there's a motion to do that. Is there a second?
Yeah, I second.
Okay, Mr. Mann seconded.
Boy, he's doing all the seconds. Seconding is new to us, so.
I'll second that.
No.
All right, any other discussion on the amendment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Now we have the whole ordinance in front of us. And I guess we must already have a motion to approve that.
To introduce it.
Yeah, to introduce it
As amended.
as amended. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. We are on to committee reports. Was there anything else from Natural Resources?
No, that was it.
Anything else from Public Works?
Nope.
Finance?
Nope.
Planning? Nothing.
Planning.
We did not meet today. I gave you
All
my
right.
time slot.
How about other business items? I do actually have another business item. Letters went out to all the invited members of the Incarceration Prevention Task Force yesterday. And the council has a membership on that too, so we need to decide who wants to be on that task force.
Tonight?
Well, it would be good if we want that group going as fast as possible. Mr. Sidhu?
We heard several comments from people on the Charter Commission and these amendments and things, and one of the things nobody has raised, and I would like to put it on record, that the Home Rule Charter is the Constitution of Whatcom County. And I think that we should make another amendment that no amendment to the charter should be made unless it's approved by 2/3 vote members of the Charter Commission. I'm not proposing any amendment right now, but I want to put it on record because that is something very fundamental, that whatever system we use to elect the members of the Charter Commission, but any amendment they propose should not be just simple majority. It should be 2/3 majority of the people.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that was just a comment for
Just a
something-
comment.
Something you might bring forward yet.
Yes, I may.
Okay. Back to the Incarceration Prevention Task Force. Ms. Brenner?
Well, can I just piggyback on his comment?
Sure.
I don't know if, does the prosecutor decide before it goes on the ballot if it's constitutional?
I don't think so.
No?
No,
I don't
Go
know.
ahead, Mr. Kremen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If it's anything like the legislature, the High Court doesn't make decisions on something that isn't in existence, and it has to be actually voted in by the people before. So I would think that would be the same for the Whatcom County as well.
Ms. Brenner?
Well, I remember, I did an initiative once, and I had to do a tug of war with the prosecutor, even though I had all the signatures and everything. I had to do a tug of war on legality and stuff.
Of the wording of your initiative, probably, but not the actual substantive impact of the initiative.
No, it was on the title and.
Yeah, the wording.
Oh, well, but we did mine. So I thought that's the kind of stuff that you do work out ahead of time.
Mr. Browne, are you commenting on this?
No, I'm commenting on this. So I as far as I know, the county prosecutor, Dan Gibson, has already done some constitutional review on some of the proposed amendments that the Charter Review had put forward, and found that I think at least several of them wouldn't stand a constitutional test, and either probably recommended that they don't put them forward because they ultimately wouldn't survive. But I don't know the exact
But they can
conversation
anyway
yet.
put them forward.
Yeah, they could put it forward, but yeah.
I think after Dan commented to them, they didn't put them forward
Right.
because he told them that's not.
Well,
gonna-
it's the one that's got me most concerned is the one that says we can't make any changes for 10 years. And I'm sure that was one of the ones that he said something.
I just wanted to say Dan Gibson did offer that advice, but it's up to the commission to decide what to do with that advice in mind.
Right.
And if I wasn't clear, that was what I was trying to communicate.
So if the council, when they come to us to introduce to the voters, wants a legal opinion, because we were given something today that says only the council can put stuff on the ballot, where our charter says we have to put stuff on the ballot.
Well, I don't think you have the option of deciding not to put something from the Charter Review Commission on the ballot.
So our charter outweighs the state constitution?
Not necessarily.
No. I mean, I don't know how much legal discussion to get in right now.
We probably shouldn't, but it's something we should think about, because when they handed us this Constitution this evening, it makes it sound like no one can tell us what to take to the voters. We have to do that.
Right. You have the authority to do that, but you've given that authority also to the Charter Review Commission.
For what
so
they put forward.
You can put whatever you want on, but they also have the ability to do that.
Okay.
And you find out after the vote.
Do anybody want to get in any
It's
deeper on this?
constitutional or
No.
not.
I hadn't read it yet, so I'd have to do that.
I read it. It's pretty interesting.
All
I
right.
was listening to the testimony.
Any other business? Oh, we never did get it back to everybody's trying to avoid who's going to get appointed to this.
I'll do it.
I'll do
I'll
it.
Conservation
No, I
I'll do
wanted
Prevention
to
thing.
do it.
I've nominated myself.
I nominate myself.
And I second Mr. Mann.
Okay, Mr. Mann has been nominated and seconded. I'll nominate Ms. Brenner. Is there a second
I'll
for her?
second me.
I'll second that. We can go down
Anybody
another
else?
rabbit
We
hole
should
here.
draw straws.
Do we want to have speeches for why to be appointed?
Can they go down to the podium?
I think we should hold it for 2 weeks.
You know, maybe Barbara and I should talk about it.
I think we should talk about
Later.
it later, much later.
I think we should do it this evening because we're already getting other people appointed.
Okay. All right, I'm going to vote on it then.
All right. Well, I'm going to speak in favor of Mr. Mann, even though I nominated Ms. Brenner, just because I know he and I have spent the last 4 or 5 months looking at all these incarceration prevention and diversion things, so I know he's up to speed on it. Not that you're not, but
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
that's how I'm voting. All right. Should we just go ahead? You can do
Yeah,
your
well,
speech.
I'm voting for myself because I've done the same thing as you guys, and I've been doing it for years. So this is like, finally, rather than, do whatever you want. I'm going to withdraw my name.
Oh.
I just don't want to deal with this. I either want it or not. I just don't want to.
You want it by acclamation.
Nah, yeah, I don't want to fight about it.
I thought I was going to be the first person to ever beat you in an election.
Oh, okay. I'm putting my name back in. I'll put my name back
Well, clearly she didn't want to give you the satisfaction.
Okay, so your name's still in.
in. No,
You pulled your name.
I pulled my name.
All right, so Mr. Mann is
You can still say you beat me.
the only
That's okay.
candidate. Any other, should we approve that by acclamation?
Sure.
Oh, do I
Sure.
have
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
Mr. Mann has been appointed. Any other business for the good of the order? If not, we'll go on to council member updates. Start down with you.
Mr. Chair, this is just a minor issue, but if I could just have the clerk's attention for a minute.
Sure.
Item 3 earlier that we voted on, which was the second item for the Flood Control Zone District Board of Supervisors. I just wanted to confirm with you, we didn't need to do a roll call with that?
The second item?
Yeah. No,
No, the-
earlier on in the vote, I was just
Yeah,
flipping
the
through.
second
Aquatic
one.
invasive
We do need a,
species.
The second item.
number
There
2
was-
or number 3?
Number 2, well, the third item, which was the second item for the flood control
Right.
zone, which was the De Boer
Oh, right.
culvert.
Contract.
Right, it was just a request for authorization. It wasn't a resolution.
Because it's just a request,
Okay,
it's not a
fine,
resolution.
as long as we're kosher.
Yeah,
that's fine.
thank you.
I have no, so there's council member updates?
Yes.
It's not really an update other than I'll just say that my wife pointed out to me that there was a news item recently that said if your husband retires and they decide to enter into politics, that's grounds for divorce. So,
All right. So we'll be reading about that in the paper, huh? Mr. Buchanan?
Nothing?
Mr. Mann?
Took my kids to the Deming logging show, and if you've never been, that is a fantastic event, and we had a great time. We were there all day, and it's just fabulous.
All right. I got nothing.
Speaking of that, my husband and I went on the Woods tour, and not only was it incredible like it is every year, and I hope you guys will go sometimes. It's the day before the Deming Log Show. On the way back, oh, he's not here anymore. Wayne Harrison, our fire marshal, was here. I saw, on Cedarville Road, I saw a big grass fire. And I said to my husband, we need to go back and do something. There's nobody out there. And he goes, no, they were burning trash earlier. And I talked to, I think it was on Cedarville Road, I talked to the fire marshal, and sure enough, there was a fire there that was, because that's how dry it is. This was just grass. It wasn't trees. And it was pretty, it looked pretty bad to me. So I'm very happy that everybody supported the fireworks ordinance, and I hope that it will reduce the possibility of fires because it is so dry.
All right. Mr. Kremen?
I'll pass.
Mr. Sidhu?
Well, just had a wonderful Father's Day with the family, and that's the update.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
Adjourn.
Seeing none, we are adjourned.